condition. You have to get that fighter plane off our back.
Roger, ma'am. I'm working on it.
That was close. I'll find a safe place to land. You'll have to continue with the objective on foot, Dragoon.
Command, this is the Dragoon requesting for a rocket bombardment on these coordinates, over.
Negative, soldier. Remember that rocket strike you've called in back in Rotterdam? Well, that was our last one. I'm afraid you're out of luck this time.
You certain? Alright then, requesting to throw in whatever you can spare, Command.
Acknowledged, Dragoon. We can drop in a rigged supply canister on the designated mark. Over and out.
Copy that, Command. Wait. What?
Dragoon Toby is gonna bring it.
How's it going, folks? So, roughly a month ago, I saw BF5 added to the Origin Basic Membership Vault and thought, okay, why don't we try this out? Now, most FPS games I've played in the past are usually set in close quarters combat, so adapting to BF5's large-scale maps that are fully integrated with vehicles, well, it took some time to adapt, but was nevertheless a refreshing gameplay. It's the very first Battlefield multiplayer that I've played, so I wanted to share my journey while covering as much as I can on the features that I've enjoyed. Alright, let's get down to the first class that I've immersed in, which is the support role. I've played a ton of CQC first-person shooters in the past, so instinctively, I opted for a fast-paced, action-packed playstyle. While the M1897 and the 12G automatic shotty can wipe squads in a snap, I wasn't really fond of its very limited lethal range. I mean, with the exception of the M30 Drilling's alternative rifle bullet fire mode, every other shotty forces you to close in a tight gap and have the trigger discipline to make every shot count. But hey, don't get me wrong, I found it challenging but rewarding at the same time. Alright, so exploring into another class, I was definitely a better asset in my team as a medic. In the grand scale of things, the ability to revive everyone in my team quickly, little by little, helps on preserving points, which can make a difference in the long run. But what I love even more about this class is the liberty to switch between an aggressive or stealthy playstyle, the former through SMGs. Like the support class, I can still be all gung-ho, but was now reassured with a much more forgiving ammo capacity. I just sneak behind enemy lines and chain my shots from one target to the next, without worrying too much of the distance between them. The same can be said for trigger discipline. I found it easier to top matches with CQC spray and pray tactics. Now, moving on to the stealthy part, the medics have the commando carbine on their arsenal, which is the only suppressed weapon in the game so far. However, based on their sneak peek vid, I think DICE would finally implement suppressed pistols in the next chapter? Hopefully. But going back, I must say it's actually quite satisfying confusing enemies from time to time without that muzzle flash or loud gun sounds to alert them on your position. I've noticed, however, that the damage drops off significantly at further range, but on the bright side, bolt-action carbines can cycle through shots while scoped in, making it easier to adjust and change shots in quick succession. Hey, I know this does seem like a camping moment, but I just want to say that you'll be amazed by the percentage of fellow campers in the battlefield. Some guys get so comfortable in their place that they don't even move despite being stabbed directly in the face. Anyways, I've heard mixed opinions of the commando, but in my perspective, no matter how concealed a player is, y'all know that using every other weapon in the game draws attention the moment they fire their gun, so that's where the commando carbine finds its niche. Personally, I keep a low profile and hold off the trigger until I find the right spot, considering both the distance and amount of cover to my advantage. So with all that being said, I think the medic's an awesome class, but it's always been a struggle for me knowing that they've got no anti-vehicle utilities. And that's when I ventured into the assault class. When I saw an armored truck full of hostiles just sitting there in the open, I knew I just had to take that opportunity to blow it up, and this time I had a ton of explosives to do so. Now, I primarily just set up sticky bombs to every vehicle on the ground that I can get close enough to, but it's not just limited to tanks. I wanted to succeed where Billy Bridger couldn't and blow up a plane before it even reaches the skies. But for the ones that do, I always wait for them to dive first, and right when they pitch up, that's when I fire the rocket. You know, in my short time playing BF5, I've realized skilled aircraft bombers always do serious damage in our team, so whenever I'm in close proximity to stop them, I do what I can. Of course, it took some practice. One of the campaign rewards was a cricket bat, and one challenge in the final mission was to destroy a plane using an explosive gadget. So I'm glad I've honed that skill by accomplishing the task. Anyways, moving on to the fourth and final class, we have the Recon. Now, in the previous FPS games I've played, I was accustomed to most sniper rifles being a one-hit kill to the body. So transitioning to BF5's proper sniping role was a bit challenging to adjust at first because I was so used to quickscoping and never really went for headshots. For a time, I just stuck with the P08 carbine as you can spam it at close range like a GTA gangster on a rampage, but surprisingly it has enough bullet velocity to still hit targets that are almost 200 meters away. Gotta say, that's quite impressive for a modified pistol. Over time, however, I've worked on playing the sniper combat role as you're supposed to and took my time in making sure every shot is as precise as possible. And I've realized it's quite fulfilling when you counter-snipe enemy targets at long distances. My furthest kill was 445 meters away, and I really had to squint my eyes to land that shot. Okay, so I've tackled pistol carbines and bolt-action rifles, but the Recon has one more trick up its sleeve: the rage-inducing anti-material sniper rifles. I had so much fun taking down targets hiding behind armor. In fact, and know that even I couldn't believe I actually pulled it off, but I went head-on against a tank and blew it up with the AT rifle. Knowing that it can pierce through any armor, my next goal was attempting to take down planes with it. Now, this proved to be way more challenging than I expected. I mean, hitting them was one thing, but landing the killing blow was another. But I kept trying, revising my strategy, making sure it was under constant fire and sustained heavy damage before squeezing that trigger. After all, the sky is the limit to devising ways to defeat your enemies. Alright folks, so that's it for the classes. Now, the next cool feature I was fascinated in BF5 are the dynamic weather cycles. You've got the mild weather shifts where it starts to rain on the battlefield, your surroundings now become gloomy, and the fog in the distance partially shrouds your enemies. There are also times when the mist envelops in urban areas, and while I was mesmerizing over the change in scenery, I didn't pay attention to the hostile lurking below. Thankfully, you can submerge in the waters to momentarily escape, and I was able to counter him with a trusty throwing knife. So next up, we have these extreme weather changes, like moving through a blizzard on a mountain. With a much more hampered vision on the surroundings, this creates a perfect chance for me to flank around hostiles. The same goes for sandstorms. I just sneak behind enemy lines, and the strong howling of the winds usually overlap my footstep sounds until I get super close, but oftentimes it's already too late for a counter. So yeah, these short-lived dynamic weather cycles really spice up the playstyles in the battlefield. Now, the last thing I want to discuss are vehicles. Again, you can always find creative ways to take down enemies as you traverse through BF5's vast maps. I once used an armored half-track to intercept a bomber plane from propelling up to the skies. Not sure if my vehicle was secretly infused with some kind of titanium plating to survive that collision, but I was definitely pleased to make it out alive. I use vehicles equipped with a serious stopping power, primarily against enemy armor. Although I can't really move much with heavy tanks, they're versatile enough with the right positioning and timing, so if I'm lucky, I can still use them to bring down planes that fly through low altitudes. Speaking of planes, BF5 is actually the first ever multiplayer game where I tried immersing myself as an aircraft pilot. I'm not gonna lie, I really struggled with the controls. Over time, however, I was able to do some basic roles like shutting down bomber planes and testing out being an aircraft bomber myself, targeting my bombing runs onto specific sectors around the map. I tried bombing an enemy plane once as well for the fun of it, but ended up blowing myself in the process. No doubt that was quite embarrassing, so ever since I alternated to firing rockets instead at a safe distance. Didn't know World War II planes had those, so I was quite astonished to find that out. So that is it, folks, for my lengthy commentary. Now let's put this BF5 vid to a close through a short dramatic machinima.
Remember, in that very moment of your downfall, Dragoon, you've been presented with one perfect opportunity. That second chance to rise up and finish the fight. Don't waste it. Ascend where others failed. Overcome every obstacle coming your way. If your pursuit is unrelenting, I guarantee you will eventually soar. Don't ever stop. Traverse onwards no matter what and make it through the harshest of weathers. This journey will make you battered and broken, but that's how legends are forged. It's through your unrelenting desire to never yield that's going to make you dominate in the battlefield.
Dragoon Toby is gonna bring it.